Yours is the interesting stuff. Ooh,
Hello. All set?
I believe so. Need our crowd to simmer down, though.
A lot of people have picked this time to take their stuff back to the hotel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Despite the fact that like buses will be running continuously, or at least as continuously as they'll ever get in Atlanta traffic.
At 5:15.
At 5:15, that's right.
When I went and got my ticket, and she had my name on the list, and she checked me off, and
Yeah, because everybody's going to be wanting to go at the same time.
yeah, plus
Everything.
Yeah.
And then catch on one of the
like-
buses. And get on the fourth bus going over there.
yes. No, it's
Okay.
I was
a good
wondering.
idea.
I figured it was. I was like, oh, they're
This is not exactly.
sugar to sugar.
There's never a crash. It's perfect. Just have to
Sugar
stay
edge.
ahead of it.
Yeah.
Fine. Worry about that next week.
Yeah. Just 4 minutes. Right. I realize it's 4 o'clock. I have our cheerleading team, so.
Should we get started?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Ann Walsh-Long. I'm at Lincoln Memorial University, Duncan School of Law. I've been there since we opened in 2009. And I'm joined today by Carrie Stoffel. She's also a graduate of LMU. What we're going to talk about today are some read it later apps, or at least what I'm going to talk about. In a digital world, you don't have the ability to stack everything that you need to read as you used to do, like when you had lots of books to read, lots of newspapers, lots of physical things. And I think we all know faculty members who still have offices that look much worse than this, all over the floors, all over the piles, everywhere. In a digital world, typically you've got so much information and it just kind of stays hidden unless you organize it very well and can get back to it. You have the information, say, in your email box, through our RSS feeds, just out there waiting for you to find it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to organize that information with the idea that you're going to use that then to write something for scholarly purposes or even use it in your teaching. So there are lots of read it later apps. There are 3 listed here that are kind of for specific purposes: newspapers, magazines, videos. There are even apps that help you organize the other content that you found on those apps. But the app that I'm going to be talking about today is called Pocket. And the reason I'm going to talk about Pocket is because Pocket actually allows you to do a lot of what we do in the law school environment, which is we use more than one database. And so it goes into third-party proprietary databases seamlessly, and you can save it in different places. So here's a glimpse of my email. And again, I subscribe to many news feeds. I'm sure all of us do. This particular one is from NPR. I get every week for their top stories. Typically what I do is I read the descriptions, and usually I'll say, oh, 1 of the 5, 4 of the 5, whatever look interesting to me, and then I just save the email. If 5 of the 5 don't look good to me, I delete the email, but I just save it. And then when I come back over the weekend or when I've got time to read, I come back to my email and then read it. But what I'm trying to do with my new Read It Later app is if I find the one article that's interested in reading, I actually go out to that article and put it into my Read It Later app. So here I am linking out to the article of interest. I've installed the Pocket app, and it installs a little browser edition in the upper right-hand corner. It's a little pocket, it's very cute. So once I get out there, I'm just going to click on the Pocket browser edition app, and it turns it to red, and it says your article is saved. Now at this point, you're done, you've saved it to your Pocket, you can move on. Or if you want to add any sort of metadata tags at that point, you can. So if you want to categorize this in a way that you'll understand why in the world I'm saving an article on guinea worms, I can put my metadata tags in that too. Pocket also suggests other terms that you might want to use. Sometimes they're pretty good suggestions, other times I think they completely miss the boat. But anyway, so at this point I've saved this out and I can read it later. The Get Pocket app is free. I use it mostly as a web browser edition, but you can use it on any sort of mobile device. What it allows you to do is save research in one place. So if you do research on the internet, say Google, where everyone starts their research these days, or subscriber databases, Lexis, Westlaw, Bloomberg, anything with a password. And we have a very large ebook collection. So if you go into ebook collections and do research there, again, it's great to have all those resources for research, but how do you keep everything organized and make sure you've kind of hit all your bases? Get Pocket also allows you to save your research and then share it. You can either share it directly with a URL or share it via email. So again, in the typical law library, we've got access to lots of databases. Each one of these, Westlaw, Lexis, have options to save within each database. So if you're doing your research on Westlaw, you can just save it to a folder and share it with your colleagues. Same thing with Lexis. If you're on an ebook library or another ebook aggregator platform, you can create a bookshelf and save all your ebook titles and, again, create metadata so you know it's by faculty or by subject. But again, those are all distinct places that you have to go back and remember. What Pocket allows you to do is anything that you're browsing or looking at through your web browser, you just save it to Pocket and all of your resources are right there. So it really streamlines research. Oops, sorry. Here we go. So this is what Pocket looks like. It looks very similar to other things that you save, maybe Pinterest or anything like that. It's like a little tile for each one of your articles. If your articles have graphics, you can see those that are displayed. What you may be able to see down there in the bottom are the different sources that these are coming from. So we've got Thomson Reuters, we've got some ebook platforms, we've got internet materials. Right now, if I am not signed in to Westlaw or other sources like that, if I click on that tile to get to the title, it won't recognize it. So just obviously sign into whatever database you're going to, click into it, and you go straight in. So again, here we are. This is just kind of a collaboration of everything that I have done research on. If you want to get additional resource, Pocket, once you subscribe for the free app, it'll then send you more articles of interest based on your preferences and how you save things. So there's a little big brother aspect to it. Somebody's out there, some algorithm is working in the background sending you things. But I've got to say I've been very pleased with both the sources that are being sent to me. It's not just junk off the internet from websites I don't understand. It's actually quality. There's things from The Atlantic, there's from the New York Times. And most of it is fairly either on point or something that's pretty interesting to read. So again, if you open up an email and you want to read a title, just click on the title, and it'll pull up the thing and you can save it for later. Like most apps, there's a free version and then there's the premium version because they're always trying to get you to come back and buy things. With Pocket, honestly, I think the free version works pretty well, and I don't really understand the reason to go to premium unless you've got ongoing research. So for librarians, I would recommend it. For some faculty members, I would recommend it. For some of our students, we were thinking about getting them Pocket passwords, and we did that for our summer students this year who are in an upper level writing course. They'll have access to Pocket for a full year. But the reality is they're only going to be using it for the semester of their upper level writing course. It's not expensive. I talked to the Pocket folks and said, hey, do you have an academic license? They didn't, but they gave us about a 50% discount. So if you're interested in doing that, definitely talk with them. They're very easy to work with. So again, moving forward, we may offer this to our students and see if they're interested. You can just kind of do 1 to whatever you want to add. We told them we would do 10. They were fine with that. Or maybe the free version is fine too for students. What the premium app allows you to do is save your resources on a permanent basis. And again, what permanence means, I don't know in this digital world, but it's going to be out there forever and it saves it. When you save an article, it's actually going to capture the content, so you can read it offline as well. You don't always need a direct internet connection. And what's great about that is for faculty who, let's say you've written an article, you've done all the research for your faculty, and you've saved all their research, you can archive that. Their article gets accepted, say in the August cycle, but the law review who has accepted it doesn't actually get around to editing it until the spring cycle. Some of the problems that we've had is if our faculty are citing to, say, newspaper articles or things that get archived and change their website, this will save it. And of course, like newspapers, often someone will save an earlier edition and they'll archive the late edition, so the title will change a little bit. So this is an easy way for you to kind of go back in, verify to the law review, yes, this is indeed the content we want, the title has changed, and it's a little bit easier to save. So that's where I think the premium content would really come in and might be beneficial. The other thing you get to do is organize more with metadata, and how many librarians don't want to organize things even more, right? So the metadata tags that you create, then you can further organize those by sorting them by date and by relevance. So here we are back in Pocket, and this is a list of recent internet content. If you put your mouse over any one of these titles, all your options to archive, delete, add metadata, or save it as a favorite appear. I'm hovering over the little sales price tag there. That's your edit tag, and then you can add your metadata. When you add metadata, you can enter your own terms. You've got about 25 characters, so you are limited. You don't have a lot of room. But you can put as many tags as you want. You can put a faculty name, you can put a topic, you can put the title of the article. Obviously, you can create your own. And what I've asked them to do is give us some sort of expand the character length, because one of the things, if I'm going to share research and I've found something that I think is on point, I'd like to have some way to communicate to my faculty that, hey, there's a great quote on page 5 or something like that. Obviously, we can fit a little, I've got Watson quote Q on P5, that'll work, but it'd be great if I could just cut and paste the quote right into that meta tag. So I've requested that through Pocket. They said, well, look at it, and I actually think that they will, so. Going back to my list, over on the tag side, again, getting back to sorting, your tags are all here just alphabetically organized. And toward the top, there are 2 categories, all items, which is the default, and the untagged. So getting back to my email dilemma of trying to organize what I have to read, if you get into the untagged and you've just saved things as it has come up, then it kind of goes into this untagged area. So now I can go back in when I've got time, read, add metadata, and then organize it, or delete it if it's not of interest. But it just kind of stays there and waits for me to come back to it and organize it. If I just click on the title, it brings back the source that I was looking at, and then all of my options appear at the top of each article. Pocket, again, pushes content to me both in email and then also to my Pocket. So under the list of recommended items, these are items that are recommended to me. And most of them are pretty right on. I think I might be interested in most of these things. So if we follow the idea that you research and you read and then you organize and then you start writing, I think Pocket will really help organize all that content and make it much more efficient. Again, the permanency will be there if you archive an article with a premium subscription. And yeah, so anyway, I'm working with several different faculty members right now this summer on research projects, and so far it's been great for me. What I'd like to be able to do is, after I've done finding the research, push all that research out to them, and then when they write their article, once they've selected the sites, they can archive just those sites for their article. So that would be a really nice streamlined thing, and then they have that when we can back it up. Great for link rot, not necessarily on a repository level, but certainly on an individual level. So yeah, I think it would be really effective. And now that you know how to organize all of your research in a visual fashion, the PowerPoints that I've been using are fairly, boring, just have text and type. So I'm going to hand it over to Carrie, and she's going to show you how to make your written product come to life more visually in your presentations.
Thank you, Anne. My name is Carrie Stoffel, and I recently just graduated, receiving my master's in information sciences. So we're really on the cutting edge of technology and really seeing what students want to see in the classroom to learn in a meaningful and productive way. So I want to kind of take you through the different visual representations. So you want to take your research and turn it into something that students are going to remember and they're going to take with them, or your faculty is going to see as a meaningful representation of the work they've made or they've produced, and seeing how that is influential and connects to the wider audience that they're trying to influence. So in data mining, you've gone into your research and you've organized and you have all your digital resources disarrayed. You've started organizing them, but you want to have some apps that will help you along the way. So you can creatively use traditional legal apps, or you can be very creative and use non-traditional legal apps. So if you have on your phone Westlaw apps, again, you have your folder, but you want to take that research and make it say something and have a theme and create an organization with it, then these non-traditional apps may be a way you want to look at things. So here's a representation of just a 50-state survey on a specific legal issue. Very table-oriented, very just kind of what you would see in a normal Word document. So there's more of it, but then you see that the table doesn't have necessarily a header as you go throughout. You're scrolling back up and down, going, what was that category that they're talking about in this? And then there's more, and then there's more, and then there's more, and you just can't take it anymore. So is there a better way? Of course there is. There's your apps that you can take with you anywhere, and your faculty can take anywhere as well. So ready-made apps. The first one I'm going to talk about is an app called Tour Builder. And this is in beta right now with Google. And what it is a visual representation of a mapping system. So according to Tour Builder, it's a new way to show people the places you've visited and experienced. Well, it can be that, but it can be so much more than that as well. You can visually represent where your faculty is publishing, or where they're speaking, or where your publications have made influence. You've been to the CALI conference in Atlanta, but you're also traveling to, say, Cincinnati to speak somewhere. Not only can you map it, but you can add metadata into there as well. So I'm at CALI, I'm speaking about this. I can link to my presentation, everything's being recorded. I can link to my YouTube. It's all right there for someone to explore and interact with. So other things you can use this mapping system for is promoting scholarship, and as I kind of talked about a little bit before, doing a 50-state survey. So when you get started, you can name your presentation, you can have a username, and you're going to get started with your introduction. So this is your home page, or layer, or tile, and it's going to be on the left-hand side of your page. You can name your presentation, you can give an introductory paragraph about it. It's really up to you how much content you want to add. Then below it, we have different sub-layer tiles under the introduction or home page. You can add tile based on a title, you can base it on a location, you can base it on a subject matter, however you deemed you want to organize your information. So this is, as you can see on the left, was the tile information. Then to the right, we're going to have our tour name and the author's name, and below it you can add photos, which will will rotate in like a Google slideshow. Then below it, you can add more information, links. You can really just make it organized the way you want. Then on the far right, you have a picture of what looks like Google Maps or Google Earth. You can zoom in. You can have your 3D representation. If you zoom in and you want to have that view for this particular tile, you can do that as well. Now you see there's like a home in the eastern United States. You can zoom in and see exactly where that is represented. That icon I can add, I can change it to whatever I want it to change it to. You can add a link to make that icon look like whatever you want it to look like. There's a couple of set icons that you can use that's already in there, but you can, again, customize it. That's the title, that's where you can add a photo and your specific metadata detail or a narrative if you would like. Up at the top, you have your save. Of course, it saves automatically every few minutes. I always double check because you can lose a lot of data that way. But you would also click Done Editing and you would see if it had been saved as well. So this is another kind of representation that you might want to consider. On the left side, you have type of story. Now, in the last slide that I showed you, there was a radiating from the home icon to different places out in Europe, and I think there was Africa. This one is a timeline story. So you can change that. You can have no story at all if you want. It depends on how you want to relate the icons or layers in your mapping system. If it's a timeline, say there's a law that has progressed throughout the United States, you can show that in a visual fashion, adding metadata in that as well. You can have a home icon and show exactly where you're going, again, for conferences as well. So here is a list of faculty scholarship for a professor and different scholarship that has quoted his scholarship. So this is pretty black and white, but what can you do with it? So there's an interesting article. It looks like Harry Potter och den Bergen der Stern, and it was published in Sweden. So you can say, well, this professor has a home base at the University of Tennessee, but he has had an influence in Sweden where he's had a publication. And so you can show that visually. You can add the name of the professor, you can add the citation, you can add how that kind of citation has influenced that area, and any kind of any citation that has used his article as well. So that is one way you could use it. Again, so there's this, if you're at the University of Tennessee, you can show that your faculty had influence in Sweden, or you can show also that your faculty had a piece of work that was cited in the Supreme Court of Botswana. So you can show how a faculty can reach out to the rest of the world and make a major impact rather than having, say, a piece of paper that you want to analyze. This might be a better way for people to interact with it as well. Again, you don't have to have the storylines. This is a representation of the War for Independence, and obviously in 1776. And it shows how the different tiles were incorporated and populated with information, but how also there was not only that text, but pictures and representation on a map. And anytime you float over the icon and click on it, it will take you to that particular tile's information. So say you were looking for resources in Europe about the American Revolution. Well, you can just start clicking on the European icons and seeing what kind of information is represented there. When you do zoom in, you can have a home view of that particular tile. So this is Bunker Hill in Boston. Again, it looks like Google Maps. You can see what is around that area. So say you're at a law school, or you're being represented, you have a citation in a court. Well, you can see who might be influenced around that area, around that court, or whoever is citing that article, for instance. So if I'm being cited by the court, I can see these people might be influenced around in that area as well. You can create submaps, and I'll show you how to do that as well. It's a little bit more complicated, and you have to be a little bit more creative, but it might be worth your time. So you can add pictures. You can look at an area, say in Africa, where there's a hot spot of a certain kind of law. You can take a picture of that map that you've created and show the representation, how it relates to each other. But you can take a picture of that map and incorporate it into your broader presentation. So if I'm in the continent of Africa and I'm talking about human rights, and I have a certain publication that that's within the hotspot, I can take that hotspot and relate it to my bigger map. So you can add all these levels within the different, within a broader topic. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about MindNode as well. So mind mapping is where you visually diagram out to organize information. There's quite a few apps, again, free, and of course you can always get premium as well, that you can use to organize information. Mind maps can be drawn by hand. In this instance, it's going to be digital. So what can we use this application for? Well, you can use it for organizing your research. If you know you're going for a Fourth Amendment issue, but you may be looking at all these different Supreme Court decisions that came out during a certain time span, you can organize your findings through MindNode. For example, so Supreme Court talks about the Fourth Amendment. I want to look at case opinions. So I created a branch off the radiating MindNode. Case opinions, I started listing cases, and then I started listing what kind of head notes that I found in Westlaw. So it had to do with habeas corpus, it had to do with homicide. Well, then are there dissenting opinions? Well, yes, there are. There's concurring, but there's no dissenting, so I make note of that as well. And you can populate this going out as far as much as you want, how detailed you want it. It's all about making it customized for you in an organized fashion. So there, of course, I talked about is the where you begin. Up there at the top, you're going to see how you can customize your mind node a little bit. And this is how you would customize. You can create different themes, different colors. Say one is visually more pleasing to what you are going to be using. You can create action item lists this way if you're going to start a project within the library. How do you get technology into classrooms? You can start trickling it out and get as detailed as you want and assign who might be responsible for what kind of duties. So that's the different kinds of layout. I have it in just a single branch, but you can have it in a comparison branch as well, where you have over on one side maybe a circuit split, where one half of the circuit says this is the way the law should be, and then on the other side, the opposite opinion. So you can kind of compare law that way as well. Not only can you see it in a branch, you can see it in an outline form. So if you want to write out your outline because it makes sense to you that way, you have that option. So you can use it as if you're writing a normal outline, but then it's going to take that and populate a graph for you. So if that makes it a little bit easier, then you can absolutely do that. My node, of course, is also meant to share, and you can set reminders, and you can print directly from the app as well. So I can take you a little bit through Tour Builder, but did anyone have any ideas how they can incorporate what they've been looking at recently or problems or issues they've had in library and how something visual can help them? Yeah?
I was just talking to a friend who was,
Oh.
so that's what came to mind for me.
Okay, absolutely. You can build things for clients such as estate planning. You can build family trees that might help you in a complicated matter of seeing who's gaining inheritance, who's keeping track of who. Absolutely, I can definitely see my node being a part of that. Anything about Tour Builder or how you could see how that might influence or help faculty scholarship? Now, I believe it's an SSR, and there's
vPress, yeah.
in vPress. Yeah, there's a mapping system, but it could show you something, but it does not have the metadata capability. So you can't just hover over a link or click on it and see all this information right there at your fingertips. You kind of have to go and dig for it a little bit more, which is going to, obviously take more time, especially if you're looking for something right then. This mapping system would help you be able to find the information right there with the links. And absolutely, you can share the mapping system in your blogs. You can create tiny URLs, and you can link to different things that you put in your populated tiles. So I will try and show you. All right, so bear with me. I can only see it on here, not on my screen. But when you go into Tour Builder and you go to My Tours, you'll be able to see all these different kinds of tours that you can build. So again, this is where you can create these sub-mapping. So if you want to show relationship in Uganda, how different laws are interacting with each other, you can create it there and then bring it into your larger, wider map, if that makes sense. They also have, you can share your tours through there, and they have examples of different ways you can incorporate tours. So a lot of it, when you go through the gallery, people have just shared publicly the tours they've made. You can see different ways they've done it, but get ideas, but there's not a whole lot of, I haven't found any. Not to say that there isn't, but there isn't a legal spin on it. A lot of it has to do with history or my vacation or something like that. So this is a really good way for you to get in and see what you can do with it and create something really new and very interactive. I think students would really appreciate seeing how 50 state surveys may be incorporated this way, or if they want to create a 50 state survey, maybe your faculty would like to see how they are being represented around the world. And you can just think of many ideas that you can use for this. So like I said, it's a non-traditional legal app, but it can be a legal app as well. It just depends on what you would like to do with it.
Where people are working.
That is an amazing idea, and I'll say it on the mic just so everybody make sure it gets captured. But alumni, that is a great way to keep track of alumni, donations, and scholarship, and even tracking where summer associates might be going, and just using it as a tool to promote the law school as well. I think that's an excellent idea. Well, if there's no other questions, I know everyone is probably getting excited and hungry for the dinner at the Jimmy Carter Library, and I really appreciate your kind attention and your time. And if you have any other questions or anything, feel free to come up and ask me. Anne, anything?
Thank you.
Thank you. I know better.